Time for this week's segment of Happier at Home. This morning we're discussing a very important topic, which is when the right time is to consider some new steps with caregiving.
Yeah, really important topic here. This morning we are joined by none other than our friend Deb Marcello from Happier at Home to discuss ways to assess your individual situation. Deb, good morning. It's so great to have you back.
Great to see you. How are my friends this morning?
Very well, thank you.
Over here.
Awesome.
So talk to us. This is a really interesting topic, and I was going over some of the notes you provided on this, and just one that you ask is really telling, I think, and can help with the analysis of everyone's individual situation. If I were to leave the country tomorrow, would my loved one be self-sufficient?
So stepping through a few of these questions is really important. It gives us a framework to evaluate our loved one, because when you're in the middle of caring for your loved one, you don't realize sometimes the decline that they're experiencing. And knowing when you should be stepping in, planning for the future, and avoiding trying to plan when a crisis happens is really key. So if you were to leave the country tomorrow, is your loved one, or if you're the spouse, would your spouse be able to take care of themselves? This is very telling. It kind of will show you the areas there might be deficits. Are they still able to drive? That's a big factor. How are they going to get their medications, groceries? What if there was an emergency? That type of thing as well.
Deb, just looking at this questionnaire, this assessment tool that you sent along to us, and I'm sure viewers at home will be able to see as well at some point, I'm just wondering if there is a certain number of checked boxes or yes to, answers where it's time to step in and say, all right, my loved one needs to go into a assisted living facility or something like that. Is there like a magic number here?
Well, we are stepping through 5 questions, and even if we don't get through these, you're right, I will post them on our website, happieratHome.com. But if with any one of these questions, there is, yeah, I think we're going to need some help. So any one of these questions, having a negative or actually saying positively, yes, we are going to need a little help, that is a good indication that at the very least, you should be looking into how are you going to have someone else help if you're to remove their main caregiver? For example, should you be looking into a home care company? Do you have friends that can actually be put in place, or family members that will be put in place that can start at least a couple hours a week visiting? Because you want that person to learn about your loved one, understand what their needs are. This way, if you're not there, then without skipping a beat, their life can continue on as independently as possible.
Yeah, and depending on circumstances and mental faculties, that introduction could happen quite frequently. If you're caring for someone with dementia, reintroducing them could happen quite a bit.
Right, and that's one of our questions is, do they have all their mental faculties? And if they do have some memory problems, they could be short-term memory, which may not be as bad. But if you're finding that because your loved one is getting confused and they're starting to wander outside the house, that can be a dangerous situation. Being able to keep that loved one in their familiar environment will help their cognitive ability as well. So instead of waiting till a crisis and then having to place them in a memory care unit, or if needed, depending on their level of care, a skilled nursing home, it is better to try to have those people introduced now, get them used to your loved one, especially with those memory problems as well.
And Deb, just going off of that, is the physical functioning as well something equally important?
Very important because sometimes when you're homebound, they just decrease in the amount of activity. So if you're not moving it, you're losing it. So your muscle weakness is increasing, maybe your flexibility. So knowing if your loved one is able to, let's say, ambulate, go to a standing position and transfer, go into the bathroom and take care of themselves and their hygiene. All of these things are part of what you can look at for the physical functioning to see if that physical functioning is decreased, and you could have someone coming in. A caregiver can actually work on home physical therapy or home exercises just to keep that blood moving, maintain the muscle mass, and that type of thing as well.
And Deb, I have to imagine, taking this can be a great guide for a caregiver, but knowing that you should take this quiz as a caregiver, I suppose that goes without saying, because if you're taking that quiz, then chances are you're noticing some sort of change.
Yeah, and it is a good thing to do because especially children of their parents, they sometimes bury their head in the sand. Oh, it's just them getting older. Okay, yes, but how are you going to deal with that now instead of having to do it in
Deb Marcello, more on
situation?
foxrochester.com.